Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user Should John Go Dark. Would I be the a-hole if I cut my family out of my life when I inherit a large estate? Okay, for background, I, male 24, live a very different life than the majority of my family. I didn't graduate high school but got a GED and started working as a welder and hunting guide. The rest of my family is pretty successful. For instance, my father is a lawyer and my mom used to be a registered nurse. Brothers own companies, sister got married to a lawyer, etc. I'm glad my family found a lot of success, but they can be very shallow and often put me down for what I do for work. My mom will make comments like, "When are you going to school to get a real job?" or stuff like that. They didn't want to pay for welding school, so I worked at an auto shop to pay my own way through. They often go on vacations and cruises without me because I won't be able to appreciate the culture or food and other BS like that. I love them, but I have been slowly pulling away from them for the last few years since I can tell that we live different lives and they have no interest in sharing their lives with me. Now, my grandfather's brother, Mike, and I have always been pretty close. Mike and I used to go hunting when I was pretty young, and even though Mike was also working in law, he and I shared a love of the outdoors and nature. About a year ago, Mike was diagnosed with cancer and has quickly gone downhill in the last few months. I have taken a lot of time off to work to care for him since he is my oldest relative and no one else wants to take care of a frail, sick old man for some callous reason. His wife died 15 years ago and he doesn't have any children. He recently asked me if taking care of him was hurting me financially, and I told him that I was cutting back on hours at work, but I loved him more than any of my other family members, so it was my pleasure to take care of him. The next time I went to visit him, he revealed to me that he was having his will changed and will be willing his hunting cabin. It's not a cabin. It's a small single-family home with power and running water on 70+ acres to me. Additionally, I'll get about $100,000 to get it fixed up and start your life. He wants the rest of his estate to be liquefied and donated to different causes that he was passionate about. Mike is actively dying now. He asked to be taken out of hospice so he can die at home with his dog, who will also be coming with me when he passes away. In his own home, my family was talking about how much money Mike has and how when he dies, they want to convert his hunting cabin into a summer vacation home and how they were going to fund a big memorial trip to Europe on his dime. Since we are his last remaining family and they expect the majority of his wealth to be broken up between us all. They do not know that everything is being donated and I am getting the house and some of his money. I know that if and when they find out about what Mike has so graciously done for me, they will rip me down and curse his name. I don't want to be around for the fallout. I plan to set aside some money for renovating the house for full-time use and start a small wedding company someday. So would I be the a-hole if I cut them out of my life as soon as Mike is gone? Seeing this new greedy side of them has soured me a lot and I don't know if I can even stand being around them anymore, even though I know that Mike always said that your family should be everything to you. Well, Opie, in my opinion, no, you're not the a-hole. Your family, I mean your immediate family, your parents and your siblings, they sound like they suck. In his own home, talking about how they were going to do all this stuff once he dies? Greed has such an ugly face, OP, but it shows you who people really are. And in this case, your family, for me, would be people I don't want to have a really close relationship with. Look, they're already tearing you down because of what you chose to do for a living, and they're already excluding you from holidays. Once they know you've got the cabin that they want and money and they're getting nothing, the gloves are definitely gonna come off if they haven't been off already, and it's not gonna be a nice time. So no, OP, I don't think you'd be the a-hole if you'd cut your family off after Mike passes away and everything is settled regarding the will. And what do you guys think? What is your judgment? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. 70s Burnout says, not the a-hole. Using what he left you and building up your life is the best way to honor your uncle. People can be vultures when someone dies, and it's always satisfying when they face an empty field. Besides, since they're all super successful and cultured, they shouldn't mind if the family poor gets a leg up. Smiley face. And Opie responds, "Thanks, I want to honor Mike as best I can, and family was very important to him, so I was worried I might be spitting on one of his core values by cutting the rest of my family out of my life." McCulkwe says, "Personally, I would ghost them before. They're just waiting for him to dike like hyenas. I just wouldn't want to look at them one more time." Many of us has permanently and quietly said goodbye to our families. No big talks, no explanations. Just understanding, pathology, or lack of integrity, and just waiting to have good, healthy, honest, caring people in our lives. This is absolutely fine to do. And Kiwi Kittens NZ says, "Not the a-hole. There are family you're related to and family you choose. It sounds like your great uncle is a closer family member to you than your immediate family, and I get the feeling he saw it that way too. You are the only one who took time to help him out and to take care of him through his battle with cancer, and you genuinely didn't mind because it wasn't a burden to you. None of your other family members even bothered. All they saw was the dollar signs and what they'd get when he dies. Your uncle changing his will to benefit you and charities while cutting the rest of your family out is his way of thanking you for all that you've done for him and his way of rewarding them for their lack of genuine effort." And Opie responds, "My parents were very busy and I am the baby of the family by about 9 years. When my 3 older siblings left home, it was really just me, and because Mike was already on his way into retirement, I mostly lived and hung out with him. I told him about my first crush and did landscaping for him to save up for my first car. I told him about what I was afraid of, and he taught me how to hunt, how to fish, and basically everything that made me who I am today. When they moved him into hospice, I was breaking down, but it seems like all my family cares about is his money and the trust fund. Venting here has helped me in many ways. I appreciate all of you guys." Additional information from OP's comments. Mike has 3 different houses and they are very large and beautiful, except for the cabin, which is small and beautiful. He has a lot of assets that are being liquefied and donated. The 100,000 and cabin will be all that gets passed along from his wealth. It's a lot for me. It's more than I make in 2 years. It's not like winning the lottery, but it will definitely ease my stresses about money. Along with the cabin that was paid off in 2002, my life would change a lot for the better. I believe someone from his firm is handling his will and estate, but I don't know anything about law. I have faith in him that he'll do everything he can to keep this from being able to be contested. Also, I went to my parents' house to eat dinner just after posting. The primary topic of conversation was Mike's assets. They are debating who will get the house he lives in, who will get his life insurance, etc. They are picking destinations in Italy and Greece they want to visit with the money, and I quote, "I hope he doesn't hang on too far into the summer because that's the best time to visit." They did not even offer a small plate of soup or anything for me to bring back for him because he's not eating. He is, in small amounts, but he doesn't feel well and doesn't have much of an appetite. I am beyond enraged right now, and this is a vent. Hopefully my resolve to get off them will last after I've cooled down. I am in pain. I don't want any money or cabin. I just wish that Mike and I could have taken one more trip. Honestly, at this very moment, I am angry at my family and grieving over Mike's impending passing. Thank you everyone for your kind comments and helping me see clarity through the haze. So the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole, and OP gave us a little bit more context into how much his family sucks. So now let's move on to the update that was 4 months after the original post to see how the story ends. Mike passed away in early May. He died peacefully in his sleep. His last waking hours were spent with me, Macy, and the nurse that was caring for him. He is buried next to his late wife. He had a good life. Some of his last words to me were, "We had a pretty good run, didn't we?" The will issue was hilarious to me and was a great pain reliever. Mike is always looking after me, even after his death, because watching the bombs fall in real time was like chicken soup to my grieving soul. Yes, Mike did leave the cabin and money to me. He also left me his guns, his dog and her stuff, and his fishing poles and tackle and a few mementos from over the years. He changed the will 3 years ago and simply never told me or anyone else in the family. He left various trinkets for other members of our family that were pretty on the nose. For instance, he left my father, who spent a long time complaining about the contractors doing work on the house, a bag of old hand tools. My sister got a box of wine glasses. One of my brothers got a drawer full of pens and pencils for your blossoming legal career. He also gave us all some money for a round of beer in his honor. Watching everyone go from fake sadness to excitement to horror and disgust was quite the trip. My mom kicked the pot of flowers outside the office so hard she tripped over it. My father just stared out the window in silence for a really long time. Oldest brother held it together until we made it home and then started screaming and swearing about getting a Neffic box of pencils as a thank you for being a part of his life. I have been moved from the disappointment son list to the crap list. As some of you noted, they weren't exactly angry about the cabin and the money Mike left me, but more so his larger assets that were being liquidated and donated. That drove them completely insane. The main target of their abuse was the primary organization that Mike willed the rest of his estate to. And other than an initial small explosion and some snide comments, they seemed to take it in stride. I haven't spoken to them much ever since Mike's passing and the will issue. There are still issues and such that need to be worked out, and I was told that could last up to a year. The cabin has been locked up. I set up some cameras and a gate alarm. I am moving in slowly, hopping between here and my apartment until my lease is up. It's definitely dated and I'm currently working through renovations and repairs. Because my phone number is tied to my work, I don't want to change it. I just opted to block everyone except my mother in case something really bad happened. After a few days of her complaining and questioning why Mike left me something so nice, she quieted down. Then last week, she began calling and texting me again and telling me it was an emergency. I spoke on the phone with her, and lo and behold, it was not an emergency. They want me to donate the cabin and land to my sister since she's thinking about starting a family and she wants to raise her future children holistically. I told my mom that my sister and her husband have a double income and a lovely house in a completely different state than me. And if they wanted to move out to the country, they were completely able to do so, but I would not be giving them my land. She then suggested they buy it from me for $200,000, which is far, far less than it's worth. I said no and got everything from I'm a selfish bastard to if I don't support my sister's dreams of raising her kids in the countryside, I'm dead to her, to Mike would want me to give the cabin and land over, to see if we ever do anything for you ever again, you entitled a-hole. I feel like it should have been harder to hear those things, but it just feels like they're trying to get me to give up what my great uncle willed to me, and it made me angry rather than sad. My sister also got on the phone to cry and say it was her and her husband's dream to raise their kids specifically on Mike's land. I kind of felt bad saying no to her, but in hindsight, she's never mentioned it before, so maybe this is a new development. Since then, they've been contacting me by email, social media and the like, hounding me to let my sister have or buy the cabin and land. So, despite my best efforts, the people of Reddit are right once again. I should have gone completely no contact. I've deleted my socials, and since I've moved job locations, they don't know where I'm currently working. They do, however, know where my house is. Sometime while I was at work, my mom and sister drove over and knocked on the doors, tried to open the side door and looked in the windows. On my doorbell camera, my mother very clearly tells my sister not to touch anything, so he can't sue. I am thinking of putting up a locking gate. Right now it latches but does not lock. Everyone is now blocked, and I'm putting together a list of people that would need to be notified of a phone number change since I want to change my number. Not really sure how to go about keeping them from walking onto my property. About 2 weeks ago, when I came back to my apartment, my parents were both waiting for me to confront me about how devastated my sister is that her future children won't have the experience of growing up in the country. I'm kind of afraid that they might camp out at the property until I give in. I put up no trespassing signs, and I hope that's enough. I know one of my brothers drove by a while back because he snapped me a picture of the road my house is on. I don't think I can do anything legally, but I'll ask. I was allowed to move in, but on paper I don't own this property yet. Apparently, it can take years for the will to be worked through, so I'm not sure what I can do about it legally. I don't even think I could sell the property to them even if I wanted to. I'm going to talk to someone about what I can do legally. It was willed to me and I was given permission to move in, but it's not in my name yet, so I don't really know. I don't understand a lot of legal stuff. Letting the police know is a good idea though. Other than that, I am well, Macy is well, and Mike is laughing from the grave. I'll stick around a little longer here and then I'll be logging out of this account permanently. P.S. If anyone has any suggestions for how to find a good dog groomer, please let me know. Mike had a groomer for Macy, but now that we've moved, they are 6 hours away and I can't keep taking her there. She is shedding a lot and Mike was firm that she can't be shaved. I have some brushes for her, but I don't know jack crap about brushing a dog. Also, she has a lot of bandanas and bows that Mike had her wear, but I think I'm tying them too tight because she doesn't seem to like wearing them. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Well, OP, regarding your family trespassing or going to your property, maybe you can send them the clip of that video you took from your door camera where your mom tells your sister not to touch anything so you can't sue, with a message that says, I might not be able to sue, but I can definitely press charges for trespassing. Maybe that'll keep him out. In any case, here's wishing you and Macy the best in the future. Hopefully you find a good dog groomer for her. So take care, OP, and thank you for sharing. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user Illuminatus Prime. Get your files off my computer? Okay. The setup. While studying at uni, I crossed paths with a hostile professor, let's call him Professor Nasty Man, who absolutely did not want to be questioned about anything during class. Disruptive, he'd say. I'm a researcher with a PhD, he'd said. You're wasting my time, he'd say. Study harder, he'd say. Some of the other things he'd say would likely get this post deleted if I repeated them here. The trigger. I missed a lecture, so just before the next class started, I asked him if I might have a copy of his lecture notes from the class I'd missed. He blew up at me, slammed his papers down, and started ripping me a new one, saying that if I was not serious about his class, then I shouldn't be in it, and that I should just drop it. This went on until about 5 minutes into the class. Nobody else said a word, and the class continued. Cue the malicious compliance. The uni had a surplus barn where unneeded equipment was palletized and sold at bulk rates. I got there first thing in the morning and spotted a pallet with a bunch of computer junk on it for $50 US. I ended up with a dot matrix printer, a few 1200 baud modems, and an extended technology PC, monitor, and keyboard setup. Of course, I also got a receipt. My place wasn't far, so I borrowed a wheelbarrow and brought it all home in 2 trips. The printer was beyond repair, only 2 of the modems still worked. The PC still booted up on the first try. I looked through the directory and saw what looked like drafts of a research paper and a whole lot of data files as well. The HDD's volume name was the same as Professor Nasty Man, so I rang up his office. His secretary answered the phone and I explained what I had found. She asked me to hold. A minute or 2 later, Professor Nasty Man himself was on the line telling me to get those files off the computer now. Sir, yes sir, I did it the right way too. I deleted all the data and document files. Then I overwrote the empty drive space with a huge file full of random bytes of data, deleted the file, and repeated the process 6 more times. Then I reformatted the hard drive with a new operating system. The PC booted right up to the DOS prompt and I was happy with my new PC. The fallout. At the next class session, Professor Nastyman greeted me by my name and politely asked if I had removed the files from the computer yet. Of course, sir. I removed those files from my computer just like you told me to. Why were they important? He told me how important the files were, something to do with 2 or 3 years of research data for a corporate-backed project. Sorry, sir, but you told me to get those files off my computer. So I did. Your secretary and anyone else listening in will verify that. Those files are gone and there is nothing anyone can do about it. The epilogue. Professor Nastyman had to default on his project, which looked bad for his department and the university as well. Rumors suggested that he had made no backups because he feared plagiarism. I had a few discussions with the dean and some others about it, but it always came down to Professor Nastyman's own carelessness. I finished the class, got a decent grade, and never saw him again. Well, OP, you were just thoroughly doing what your teacher directed you to do. I guess he must have bought an external hard drive after that. Thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.